The Trump campaign moving forward with a flurry of legal challenges to this election. So far, they've filed lawsuits in Pennsylvania, Nevada, Michigan, and Georgia. There are also going to be some new lawsuits starting tomorrow. We talked to Mayor Giuliani about those earlier. Let's welcome in now Trump 2020 senior legal advisor Jenna Ellis to talk more about this. She's also a constitutional attorney. And Jenna, great to see you. How you doing?
Great to see you too, John. And, you know, it's another day to fight to make sure that our constitutional system prevails. And so we're looking forward to the resolution of this as expeditiously as possible.
So let's talk about a quote here. I'm going to leave the first name blank, but we'll play a little game. You can tell me who said this quote, right? He should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out. And eventually, I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is. Who said that?
I think that was Giuliani. No, wait, that was Hillary Clinton.
That's right. That was Hillary Clinton. That was not Mayor Giuliani in our first hour. That was Hillary Clinton talking about Joe Biden if there was a challenge like this. So for a lot of people who are trying to rush this through, maybe they should just take those words into account, right?
Right. Imagine that we're all actually saying Hillary Clinton said something that maybe we should follow. And of course, you know, her rationale for it was not the same as every legal vote counts. But to all of the people who are wondering, you know, how long is this going to take? That's the most common question that I'm getting right now is, you know, this is already November 8th. Why don't we have a resolution? Well, remember back in 2000 with Bush v. Gore, that election day was November 7th. And the Supreme Court actually decided the final case that determined how the ballots were processed, which, of course, ultimately determined the outcome on December 12th. So you had 36 days in between where, of course, the media rushed to judgment there, had headlines all over President Gore. Of course, they had to retract. And it's not that the Supreme Court selected and substituted their judgment for the American people. It's that the Supreme Court ultimately decided the constitutional and legal questions. So that is a distinction that I want to be clear on. It's not that the Supreme Court substitutes their judgment for the will of the American people or ultimately the Electoral College. It's that we want to make sure that every legal vote counts and that the process is completed according to the Constitution and state law, which only the state legislatures can determine.
A lot of issues here, Jenna. We were talking to Boris. He's in, I think, I'm trying to keep them all straight. We talked to Rick Grinnell. He's in Nevada. I think Boris is in Arizona. We talked to Dr. Kelly Ward. She's in Arizona as well. We have software issues in the state of Georgia, also in Michigan. We talked to Mayor Giuliani about what's taking place in Pennsylvania. So this is spread out all over the map. And this is another big difference between 2000 and where we are right now. Which one of these legal issues do you see having the most impact on ultimately what happens here?
Yeah, and that's a great point as well, is that in 2000, it was dealing with a couple of counties with, of course, the ballot issues. We all remember hanging chads in one state that was outcome determinative in Florida. Well, all of these all together, another liberal talking point is that, well, you know, we're not seeing this widespread fraud. Well, it is systematic, and we don't yet know how widespread it is. And part of that is because we've been denied meaningful access in states like Pennsylvania to actually look at the vote count. And the only reason for that, as the president continues to reiterate, is that there's something going on that is nefarious, that's manipulating the ballots. We just don't know. And that actually harms Joe Biden as well, because he can't prove that something didn't happen. No one at this point in Pennsylvania, with all of these delays of meaningful access to the ballots, can actually then certify competently and legitimately what exactly that count is. And so I think all of this together is going to be really important to show that all of these, now we're talking about 5 states, possibly more, that everything together with this systematic fraud is outcome determinative when you look at the whole of the country and the electoral count.
And Jenna, is it your position that when Democrats were pushing so hard for all this expansion of mail-in voting and expansion of absentee voting and saying it's not safe to vote in person, that this was their ultimate goal, was to make things so complicated, make things so challenging that it would be easy for them to change the outcome?
Yes, President Trump has said from the very beginning that this very rushed universal vote by mail system with mailing out millions and millions of unrequested ballots opens up a wide opportunity for fraud. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And not only that, you also have states that have changed their election law initially, like Nevada and Pennsylvania, outside the scope of their state legislature, which of course is the only way that you can change law. And even if the state legislature had acted, then you still have to make sure that it is constitutional. So in Nevada, for example, the state legislature rescued their governor. They did ultimately change their law, but we still have to make sure that the process is completed constitutionally and also that every legal vote counts. And so in Nevada, when you have reports of non-residents, when you have reports of deceased people voting, those are votes that legally should not count. And it doesn't matter if it's a Trump vote, a Biden vote, or a write-in for someone else or whoever it is. Those votes legally should not count. So at the end of the day, you have an accurate tally, and the people of America can be confident in who won genuinely and legitimately.
But Jenna, real quickly, there are a couple dates here. You know, we don't know how long this is going to take, but there's December 14th. That's the date in which the Electoral College is supposed to vote and certify the election, and also January 20th when the inauguration happens, the transition of power. Are you confident that the American people will have confidence in this process and will get a fair hearing on what actually went down before those dates reach us?
That's what we're fighting for. Of course, it really is dependent on the timeline of the courts and ultimately likely the Supreme Court. But the Constitution also has provisions in case those dates are not met. And so, you know, we can be confident in our American system, but we are fighting to make sure that the American people have confidence in the accuracy of the outcome as expeditiously, but as accurately as possible. So we're not in a rush. We want to make sure that this is accurate. And so I'll go back to Hillary Clinton. The Democrats shouldn't be either.
That's right. It's interesting to think of our founders writing the Constitution, James Madison and the like, thinking of all these scenarios on what could happen with a tie or the situation we're talking about. I imagine a few glasses of mead were had. What about this scenario? And they thought of them all. It's really quite amazing when you read the Constitution. Jenna, great to see you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, they were great lawyers. Thanks so much, John.
All right. And of course,